Hey everyone, this is ScrapInput here with all of the tricks and tips on getting a role during ranked games. We all know how frustrating it is trying to do those promos and not getting that mid lane, not getting the top lane, not getting your bot lane AD carry, and not getting your support. Well, joking, you always get your support, but beyond that, a lot of people do not main support and they're having trouble getting the roles, and this video will help you out in doing that. And notice that some of these points aren't 100%, but they will give you a better chance of getting the role, and there's a greater chance of obtaining it overall, which of course means you get more games with the main role, which means you win more. This is important for anyone who mainly focuses on one role, or maybe even isn't really fantastic in their secondary role. But let's get stuck right in. Solo tip. This tip is for solo queue players who want to get a certain role. The solo rank system works off what is required the most and divvies up the roles between a mixture of the least and most played and who wants to play at the current time. So essentially, who wants to play the role, and if there's a lot of people who want it, secondaries are going to be divvied out quite a large amount. Because of this, we know that generally speaking, the most desired roles in League of Legends is mid lane, which is wanted the most as seen in the diagram from right below. Top is wanted a little bit more as you have a smaller percentage chance of getting it, and finally jungle is the third most wanted. And of course from the diagram you can see the rest. Because of this system, you can abuse this and get your main role more often by picking two desirable roles as your main preferred role. So for example, if you pick mid and top, both desired roles, it means that it's going to have trouble divvying you up between one or the other, which means in essence, because it's your main role, you should have a higher chance of getting your main. For example, say you wanted top lane really badly as it's your main role. You could put top and mid as your selection. So this means that basically you're putting in two highly desired roles, mid being the most desirable. But since it's only a secondary preference and highly wanted, you're more than likely not going to get it. Because mid is so wanted by every player, a large majority of them, you're going to be putting in with top the secondary. So mathematically speaking, the game will probably give you the least desirable one, which in comparable terms is top lane, even though it's a highly desired role in itself as well. This means that you're unlikely to get mid, although it is possible, but it's unlikely, and for the most part, mathematically speaking, they should just give you your top lane because it's easier on the numbers, because you're not asking for that all-important and highly influential mid lane role. So this works out really, really well. Remember, the system has to give you one or the other. So normally, they're going to give you the one they have more of, which in this case is top lane. This works for any role though. This also works for jungle, just lock in jungle and mid. It works for AD carry and mid. You can also change it so you can put top as your secondary preference or jungle, because both of these roles are also wanted, but mid lane is by far the most effective, although jungle and top are acceptable, top being a little bit better, as you can see from the diagram. If you want mid lane, just flip it, put mid as your main role and top as your secondary, the second most preferential role. This means that mathematically speaking, you should get mid lane, although this is indefinite because both roles are really heavily desired. Again, just from this diagram, as you can see below, just use the most preferential role you can or you can play with one you want truly. So if you want top lane, put in the most desirable one that's beyond what you want to play. So mid's usually there, then top afterwards, then finally jungle if you mean top and mid, for example. So guys, that is basically how it works. This system is not 100%. It will just give you a higher chance. I'm not saying it's going to give you it 100%, but overall, if you get your role more often, it just means you're going to win more games. It's just putting another role wanted in with another, forcing the system to have a harder time of giving you your secondary, making your primary a little bit more likely. The system is great, but for a small caveat, just make sure finally you can actually play the secondary role to some degree. If not very well, don't just stick in mid because you think you're going to get your main role, because that could lead to pretty unfortunate circumstances if you can't play mid. Duo tip. This tip is when you want to duo with someone, so just two players. Duoing gives you double the chance of getting a role. So say you want mid. Get your friend to put mid as their main or secondary role and another role after that, and then you put your main role as mid as well and yet another role that has not been chosen. So two mids and then two different roles essentially. This means that both of you have mid lane selected, so all you have to do is swap with your friend if he or she gets it during the pick phase, which means that assuming your friend just wants the other role, it means that if they get mid, they'll be able to swap out with one of the other role you've got in as well. So this only really works well if you've got a friend that heavily plays a couple of roles, maybe 2 to 3, but it does work. It does double your chances of getting mid, which is really, really nice as an example. Once again, doubling your chances to getting the desired role. Now remember the solo tip I mentioned previously, you can actually use this as well. So for example, the first player can hit mid and top, and you can put mid and jungle. So both, as you mentioned in the solo tip, this works in duo queue as well. You can put these both in to get an even higher chance of getting those main roles. Trio queue onwards tip. when playing with 2 friends or even more. So with just example trio queue, it works more with greater numbers, but with trio queue, 2 people out of the 3 can always get their roles, you included of course. So player number 1, you put mid as your main, and then your ally's role, the player 2's role as your secondary. The player 2, your friend, puts that secondary role you just had as his preference, and then mid, your role is a secondary. So both of you just pick each other's roles, and this means one of you are going to get the role, and if someone gets it that it wasn't you, swap with your friend. No matter what one is, you're going to get it. Player 3, all they have to do is put in 2 completely different roles from player 1 and player 2, and that's it. You 100% get your role, because player 1 and player 2 will both get their roles, and that means player 3 is divvied up to between whatever they play for the rest. This means that both players get their roles, so not just one player getting the role, but 2. Player number 3 is a little screwed, that's why it's always nice to have a versatile friend, but all the same. This works with playing with 4 players as well, just 3 people get it, and you can just keep on divvying it up in this way. Very, very simple strategy, really effective though. From 3 onwards, as I mentioned, just use tip 3 again, you'll always, or nearly always, get your role. And this tip is to make sure you get your quote-unquote role as the chosen mid laner of legend, aka me with my 90% win rate Veigar. But yeah guys, this will really help out you. I know a lot of these guys struggle in solo queue, you're not getting the role. These are just a couple of tips you can do. Remember that solo tip number 1, it's very important if you're playing solo, duo, and even trio queue for the last player to get the role a little bit more frequently. All these tips combined together, and I hope it helps guys. And that's it for the video as well. If you like it, dislike it, dislike it. If you like the content, you can subscribe, and you think it's absolutely horrible and completely useless, you can unsub as well, and totally fair. Also share it with any friend you know, as a matter of fact, probably needs to get the mid lane, more than likely, you know, the mid laner of Destiny. Besides that guys, have a great day, best luck with the rift, and I'll see you guys next time.